Welcome to the Visibility Vixen podcast, where we create space to grow our brand with intention and clarity, one episode at a time. Join us as we explore the many aspects of entrepreneurship, start loving the journey instead of the destination, and begin building a legacy that lasts. Here's your host, Michelle Lewis.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. And guess who's back? Back again. It's Mel Farr, the amazing, the incredible. I'm so happy that you are here. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Me too. You like my 90s reference? I got them going. I've got them like on point. Amazing. Okay.
I'm so into 90s stuff, actually.
I am
it's one
too.
of my guilty pleasures. So
I mean, if I'm at a store and like Spice Girls or NSYNC comes on, like I bust it out.
Spice Girls is on my phone, and I happen to really like the 80s as well. George Michael-y, late 80s. That's a big thing for me.
I love it. It hits me right here. Okay, so I actually saw Mel a couple months ago at her Ascend Live event, which was fantastic. This girl knows how to host an event. Absolutely brilliant. I still have the pen. And I had to call her and be like, can you please come back on the show? Because she is such a genius at funnels. I mean, this girl really rocks it out. She's really incorporated into her business in an extremely successful way, not just with coaching or group coaching, but also with passive income. So I thought if she can come on the show and talk to us, because I know that there's a lot of confusion out there about funnels because people think that they have to be like social media marketing experts, and they're like, I just really want to start my first funnel and take people on a journey. How do I do that? So first of all, tell us kind of how you evolved into figuring out what funnels would be right for you.
Sure. And I love the way you introed that, by the way, people thinking that it has to be super complicated to be effective. And I'll out myself right away to say that like there are funnel geniuses far beyond the capacity that I have to implement at this moment. I'm coming from the coaching industry more than like the online marketing industry, but some of my nearest and dearest friends and colleagues who are also in the coaching industry have implemented, like evergreen programs that are creating, 60K a month, or spending 15K on Facebook ads and making, 30. And they're not necessarily ladies who have trained with these huge funnel experts. A lot of what they've learned and what I've learned has actually come first and foremost from launching live programs, because I think most people would agree who really like evergreen and funnels and systems and things like that if you're going to have a really good, automated system that's going to be getting clients from the online world into your programs or buying your products or services, it's really important that you run this live first. The blood, sweat, and tears that it can take to create a funnel that's larger and more complex, because of course they do exist, very complex things out there. It's so smart to launch something live first, and you'll learn so much from going through a live launch, and there's lots of different ways to launch. That's a whole other conversation, but you'll learn so much that you'll start getting the hang of what's really speaking to your audience way that you can say, this is on autopilot now, And so I think for my journey and my evolution, the number one thing that I really learned is that creating a funnel is not an overnight experience, a successful one. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be super complicated for you to start automating simpler systems so that you're not spending so much time, following up with every single different person or nurturing every single person who comes into your community or onto your list. So a lot of my journey, like I said before, was really came from a place of me launching my 6-month group program. I have a program, Under Earner to Unforgettable, for online coaches who are really wanting to create 5-figure months. And as I went through launching that program, we're going to be doing our 5th launch in April. I learned so much about email sequences and what people respond to. And so my first funnel that actually did really well, and I have to admit, it was kind of a fluke because the things that work well to have people buying or saying yes to you are always going to be the same foundational marketing things.
Mhm.
And it's just, you've got to know a good combination to include them, and it's different for everybody. And so my first funnel wasn't for a large group program per se. It was actually selling a $49 product. I have many
Love
$49
it.
products.
Mhm.
And I have the bundle, which is like, 8 $49 products for $297. And, if it's $297, you can tell you're getting 2 of them technically for free if you buy all of them. So these are smaller products. And, I paid attention to, when I created free content, all of those products were just free content and challenges and online webinars that I did for free initially, and then recorded and packaged up as a product, which that's one thing about creating these little products that you can sell as passive income and turn your clients into paying customers. You don't have to just make something up in your own room. And in fact, that usually doesn't sell as well as something you do live.
Totally.
So this is getting to be long, but I did a lot of free content. I made sure my people were really excited about it. I packaged it up. It wasn't a large offer, it was small offers. And then what I would do is put those into email sequences that really spoke to the things my clients cared about most. And usually it was some kind of great opt-in I knew they would love, followed by 3 to 5 emails that were offering them this $49 product or the bundle for $297. And we put that on actually right after a big launch. I went to Belize with my husband because we'd gotten married and it was our honeymoon. And when I first started running Facebook ads to this opt-in to go through and offer them these products, I think over our honeymoon, I was like, we just made like $800. That's interesting. It wasn't a lot. It was like we sold a bundle and a couple other things, and it wasn't profit, but it really took down our ad spend. And then as we put more money into the ad, it started doing in revenue, not in profits. As a first funnel, it started doing about 10K a month, just consistently every month. And I was like, this is working. This is so weird. So anyway, long answer to a small question, but that's a little bit of my journey. I'm happy to get into any details that would be helpful for people too.
Well, I love what you said there. It doesn't necessarily have to be this thing that you're toiling away at for months to provide a training. It can be something that you've done live that you can repurpose and package and present. I think that is pure gold. I did that with my company on camera sequence, and it's fantastic. You can make it evergreen, and then people love it. It's exciting. So I think that's great. And I think one of your huge gifts that I don't think people necessarily put the creativity into it when they think about funnels. One of your gifts is language. So I think it would really be helpful, kind of like what you were chatting with me about, in terms of the points that you make sure to hit in every email that really skyrocket people's attention.
Yeah. Oh, I love this stuff. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the thing that really helped me with my funnels, and some may say differently, but it's just coming back to good old, clean, clear marketing. And what I'll actually share are, I think, about 6 or 7 different things that I think are very important elements to include somewhere in your funnel. Now, you could take these 6 or 7 and actually make them the order of your emails if you want. So I'll walk through step by step what those are.
Awesome.
And to preface them, what I would say is anytime online, especially with the amount of people who are marketing online and all the different things that are going on, just even outside of our industry, like the state of the world and things like that, there's obviously, a lot of stimulation that's competing for the attention of the people who you would like to invest in your products or services. So we've got to be interesting. I mean, the thing I hear over and over again from my mentors is just, you can't afford to be boring. And so I think the big thing that we always have to keep in mind is that people need to know, how is this going to help me, or what am I going to get? And I think sometimes when you hear that, you're like, gosh, people are so selfish. And they're not selfish, but the thing is, we all have to prioritize and make choices in our lives about where we're going to spend our time, are really one of our most valuable assets, in my opinion, far more valuable than money. And so if we don't know what we're going to get out of an email or out of the post or the Facebook ad or whatever you've got going on to market, we're just going to pass it by. And it's a very short period of time. Some people say 3 seconds. Some people say like less than a second before somebody says, this is not compelling enough to get my attention.
Isn't that amazing?
So the way that translates to you as a marketer for listeners here is talking less about how you do what you do, and the how is more like the strategies and the tactics, maybe you are a love and relationship coach. And so you teach people how to do meditation or how to prepare their home for someone new to come in, or that's kind of a more intangible woo-woo example, but I like that kind of stuff. And you might do certain things like practices or readings or meditations or self-love techniques. That's all how you do what you do. Now, somebody who is a potential client of yours might say, that sounds great, but that sounds great does not translate into, I need that, I'm going to pay for that. So that means it's not that you can't talk about how you do what you do. I will help you, do these meditations, these self practices, let go of past baggage so that you can, and here comes the outcome that they really care about, find the love of your life, feel loved like never before by a partner, have the greatest sex you ever had in your life. These are all outcomes that this potential client, this example, may very well want. That is what they say, I need that. Because I want the partner and I want the intimacy and I want the relationship. But I can go and meditate or work on baggage in a million different places. So while that's lovely, I'm not going to pay for it. Right. So what I'm saying is a lot of times people make the mistake in their marketing, in their funnels, of talking so much about what they're going to do and how they're going to spend their time, and less about the actual outcome. So we always want to be saying, what are they ultimately wanting to get out of this? You may help them do X, Y, Z, but I use the so that you can method, so that you can insert final outcome. So if what you are saying, a way to figure out whether you're talking about this or not is to ask yourself, is this a specific outcome? When things are more general, obviously they're less specific. And the more specific the outcome, the more people are willing to invest and say, I need that. The more general, it may or may not be that you're talking about the how, but either way, it's just not going to be moving people as much to invest in themselves through your services and products. So, preface. Hope that's okay to add that in first.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And I think that's what made a huge difference for me when you gave me that clarity, is that I went through one of my sequences and was like, okay, am I addressing this, this, and this? No, crap. And like had to go in and redo it. And I think that's the key, because some of us, like for me, I tend to be a little bit too big picture. And so when I'm writing something, I'm already like 3 steps ahead, and okay, so I need to upload it here and da. So I kind of have to slap myself. And so it's harder for me to get like down into it and really focus on that tangibility of when that person is reading that email. So I love that you cover that, because that's so helpful for anyone who's either starting their funnel or has maybe had it for a while and they're not getting a lot of revenue from it, to know that it could just come down to language and hitting those pain and pleasure points. So I think that's
Amen.
Fantastic.
And that's the perfect place to segue into this. What I'm going to share with you are like, what are the things you really want to create? And if listeners right now want to actually write down a checklist, you can take this checklist through and cross off and say, okay, this sequence is hitting these things. Sometimes you can gather them all in one email. Sometimes you can spread them out. The important thing is remembering, for a lot of us online entrepreneurs, we're creating a solution to a problem that we probably used to have, and that's where our passion for it comes from. So that means that we have to keep putting ourselves in the shoes of our potential clients and think, okay, I have to remember what I didn't know when I was in this situation. And it's not about bombarding them with too much. You want simple, step-by-step, clear over clever with your marketing, and very outcome-based, so that each step they're thinking, this girl is in my head and she is anticipating the next inevitable thing I keep wanting. That's what we're going for. So
love it.
I actually wrote some notes. So if I'm looking at my computer, this is I am letting you into the vault. This is actually from a marketing module I use in my 6-month group coaching program, all about funnels. So I'm going to share just a few deets, not the whole module, of course, but some cool things. So I think a lot of times when people go through a funnel, one of the things you want to make sure that you do in that funnel, so you can write this down as number 1, is welcome them. An email, and always short and succinct. I will say there's no such thing as too long copy, just boring copy that's too boring.
Yeah.
But But I would say be succinct. If you're writing copy and it's getting really, really long inside your emails, have someone who's a potential client go through and say, circle only the juiciest thing that you care about. Anything in the sentence you don't care about, don't circle it. And then you shorten that up as much as you can. So when you welcome them, sharing your story and your mission, maybe a one-liner about that why behind what you do. And usually people will get into this whole long thing. And that's why their emails are like, they're not getting click-through rates, which indicates that the copy in the email is not interesting. So you can share your mission powerfully and clearly and shortly. And then you want your people to be wanting to know more, not to say, give me an F and break. A cool thing to do in your welcome email as well is getting your people to follow you other places online. I mean, I want you to think about how if you get an email from someone you just started following, are you more likely to open the email if the only communication you have with them is via email? Or if you're watching them on Facebook Live or Periscope, if it still exists, and just following them on Instagram or Twitter, other social media platforms, are you more likely to read their emails if you've built relationships in multiple places or if you're just getting emails, right? I think the question's probably pretty obvious. So in that welcome email, you might say, this is me, this is what I'm all about. Come follow me. I do Facebook Lives in my Facebook group or, whatever, things like that. And of course, asking them to make you a priority, whitelist me, make sure you're getting my emails. So that's a really important thing to do right from the beginning. I like these emails to be really short and succinct. That could technically be email number one, and I would suggest it actually. So that's one piece. Now, these two next pieces that go together are super important. And I consider these to be two things on your checklist that you continue over and over again in one way or another to put throughout your emails: the pain point and the pleasure point. And, anyone who's been following me has probably heard me say this, or maybe you've heard someone else who loves marketing say this. People buy for these two reasons: to have pleasure or to avoid pain. And unfortunately, a lot of us humans, and I include myself in this at times, although now that I've become conscious of it through marketing, I'm much more motivated from pleasure than pain. But there's a lot of us as humans who depending on what's going on in our lives, feel very motivated or finally take action when we have enough pain, which is a sad thing. But that's what makes me feel so excited about using pain points as marketing, because my goal is to get people into action to help them change their lives. And I feel very in integrity with that, where I think sometimes people have said, oh, I don't want to, twist the nail in, and that's not what we're doing. But we're saying like, hey, open your eyes to the situation, get support with whatever your transformation is. So painting the pleasure picture or the pain picture, if we go back to, that ideal client who's looking for love, the pleasure picture might be, imagine that most of your nights at the end of the day are spent with someone you love at a dinner table, romantic candle, and somebody who loves you, understands you, and every conversation you have just makes you realize how at home you are in their presence. There's a pleasure picture. There's like a warm fire and you're watching your favorite movie and you just get to come home, not just to your home, but to the person who feels like home, right? Like right now I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of my partner.
Like,
so that's that pleasure picture. Whereas the pain picture might be something like, when life gets hard and there's uncertainty and you're scared, it is so heartbreaking to go through those moments and feel like there's nobody who knows you. There's nobody who you could call. There's nobody to hold you in moments where you really feel that. And how much longer do you want to feel like you're going through the scary parts and the good parts with no one to share it with who's your absolute best friend? Like that's like,
like heartbreaking.
It's like, oh, like in those moments, that's where we want to take them. And I'm just an example. I love language. I love using words. I love to paint pictures. And that's what we want to do. We want to paint a picture for our potential client that they can step into and be motivated to create a better life for themselves in whatever way we help them do that. So pain, pleasure. Something that's huge, huge, huge is social proof. I love using case studies. It's great to use your own story too. Maybe you don't have a lot of case studies and you can use your own story. I think this gets a little tricky, but there are times if you don't have a lot of results, client results, that is, or testimonials, you could also, reference different statistics or stories elsewhere of people who are using tactics that you teach your clients if you're very clear about the fact that these are not people who have worked with you, but these are people who have focused on what you will be teaching, and stats show that this kind of work helps blah, 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 blah. So that's something cool you can do. You could, provide your services or products for free and get feedback from people that way. You could tell your own story. And then, client testimonials or case studies of clients is just a powerful thing. And this is something where, when I'm first introducing myself, and like I told you, I might not put a testimonial in there, but I might weave it in, along with that pain and pleasure point. If I have lots of social proof, there's no reason for me not to insert things here and there pretty often. And again, we're talking about a simple funnel with maybe as little as 3 emails or as much as 10 or 12, but something more moderate there. And then I think it's also important. This is another thing you can put down is somewhere in your funnel, are you addressing any frequently asked questions you think that might come up or any objections that might come up? So again, you're putting yourself back into your ideal client's footsteps and saying, okay, they're going to be like, I need this. Oh, but here's the reason I can't.
Yeah.
And if you know if you know your audience well, you'll be able to say, okay, here's what I think they might be thinking now. So to be able to address those through that is really, really huge. And those, I think those are a lot. Another point you can have on your checklist is urgency and limiters, right? So some kind of thing for urgency. A lot of times in a funnel, it's like maybe we don't have a cart closing or we don't have any reason to say this is ending, but it could be something where there's a certain amount off of the offer, 10% off. It could be that you're adding a bonus in. So if they invest now and make that courageous choice to change their lives now, you give them even something a little extra to reward their decisiveness or things like that.
Tasty. I like it.
Yes. So that's really cool.
Love it.
So yeah, I think those are a lot of the things. I guess to kind of recap, it's like the urgency, the limiters, the frequently asked questions, pain, pleasure, welcoming them. And then of course I've got to put in story, which really goes with social proof, that's sharing the stories of yourself and others. And like I said before, being specific, I could say, I love making money doing what I love. Now I've heard that a million times and I mean, I can't hear it again, but I could hear something like, it was so exciting when my client came to me, told me she had her first $25,000 a month. She had money in the bank to put her son through tuition that year for private school, which she'd been wanting to do forever. She'd never had the money for it before. She's winning, her family's winning, and my business grew to the point that I got to go to Hawaii for Christmas with my niece for the first time. I mean, that actually is a true story that happened a year and a half ago. And I can share, this is another version of me loving to create abundance in my life so I can make a difference for my family and others while I'm helping someone else do it. Now, I could have said that really boringly, or I could have told you a story.
Yeah. Oh, so key. I love that. Awesome. So I love that you went through it point by point. And I think my only question would be, if someone's gone through that and let's say they have not made that decision, do you wait a couple days and maybe put in another email inviting them to a different funnel? Or do you just kind of, email them a little bit later on? How do you kind of keep that fire alive?
So is the question you're asking like when to put in the offer or how to tell if your funnel's not working?
Yeah, once you've put in, say you've put in your offer and they've gone through the entire sequence and they have not bought for the percentage that do not when they go through the funnel, do you let a certain amount of time go by and have an email go out to them inviting them to a different maybe opt-in or incentive or training, or how do you handle that?
Sure. So there's a couple of things. I can share with you some things to look at to know, like, is this funnel working? A couple stats. And again, so many people share different stats that are like confusing and different. So I'll share with you what I've learned from my funnels. And then also what to do if someone doesn't buy, right? So
awesome.
I think, if you have a lot of people going through that aren't buying, first of all, the majority of people don't buy in a funnel, and that doesn't mean that it's broken or it's not working. I think that's something really important to know. A lot of people don't let enough people go through their funnel before they start trying to decide whether the funnel is working or not. And usually they have no idea what the stats of the funnel are. So don't do that. And if they don't buy, my general rule, just to keep it basic, there's tons of complicated things I'm sure you could do, like downsells and things, but of course they haven't bought anything. So
Right.
the best thing usually I do is they've completed the sequence, and while you could start a new sequence for something different, which is totally fine, the best thing you want to do with someone who's not buying is continue to build a relationship and nurture them so that they are building trust, which is going to make them more likely to buy in the future. And I think if you keep in mind the reason that they joined your community in the first place, if they're really interested, like for instance, I have always loved teaching about sales. It's not the only thing I do as a business coach, but that's a big piece of it. So if they came onto my list because they wanted help with sales, it could be that I nurture them for, 2 or 3 more weeks when I put them into a new funnel that's making a different offer about a certain aspect of sales. But more than anything, I think what I found for me is the most important thing is to make sure I'm actually really building that relationship and nurturing it before I go trying to get them to say yes to anything more than just opening my emails and hanging out with me in different social media platforms online. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing. I think when it comes to is my funnel working, there's different percentages that people convert from a funnel. So you've really got to take a look at it. We don't assess whether our funnels are working unless we've had at least 200 people go through them, probably 300. Because out of 100 people going through, depending on what your price point is and what you're offering, and let's say it's something under $500, let's say my $300 product, we got that converting around 2.8 or 3%, right? Which means that every 100 people who go through, 3 or less people are signing up. That's 97 who aren't and 3 who are. Now, if it's right around 3%, that might actually be good. I've also seen smaller products on the thank you page. So they sign up for the free offer, and on the thank you page, it offers them, we had a $27 offer. We had that converting at 11% once, which is, in my opinion, really high.
Yeah.
But that was just $27, so you might find things converting anywhere between, 3% to be good and 10% to be good. And other people will give you other stats, but that's generally what we're looking for. When 200 or 300 people have gone through, what's the percentage that people are converting at? And when we're looking at our funnel to assess, is this working or not, or what do we need to fix to bump up that conversion rate? To keep it really simple, I'll just give you a couple things to look at. Number one is the open rate of your email. A good open rate depends on the size of your list. If the list is smaller than 20%, maybe even 30 or 40, that is exceptional. But once your list starts getting to 5,000, 10,000 and over, keeping it around 20% is actually pretty tricky to do for a lot of people. So, 20% I generally say for most list sizes is really an exceptional place to be. So if you look through, and what you would do in your funnel is have every different email with the subject line, you're going to look through and say, okay, which ones are getting open rates of 20% or more? Which ones aren't getting open rates of 20% or more? The ones that aren't, all I want you to do is go change the title. And things you can do to get the open rate to go up would be to put their first name in the title. People love symbols, things like that. People love elements of mystery. So they might say, here's the thing that helped me XYZ, that in the XYZ is that outcome. If they see that, they're like, how did they get that open? Yeah. So make the title more interesting. If they're not reading the email, they're not going to buy anything, right? So that's the number one thing to look at. The next thing you want to look at is the click-through rate. That means when someone's opening your email, how many of them are clicking on your offer and going to that sales page for whatever the product is. I've heard different stats on this. I've heard a click-through rate of 2.3 to 2.4. My current team members feel that deliverability in email marketing is actually going down a little bit. Don't freak out. It's just happens to be a little true, I'm thinking. So maybe a little bit under 2% sometimes. But I've read books that say different numbers than that. That's kind of what we go off of a lot of time. So if your click-through rate's really, really low, then what that generally means is whatever is written in your email is not interesting enough to have them say, I'm going to click and go check that out. Otherwise, you're losing them, right? So this is when we say, okay, let's change the copy of what's in the email to have that be more compelling so they click more. a good trick for this that might be very cool is any of the emails in your sequence that have high click-through rates. What I would do is I would go and study what's in that email. What are the different things off that checklist we made that you think are converting well in terms of getting people to click? And then you can mimic that kind of writing in other emails where the click-through rate isn't as high. And then the last thing I'd look at is just overall conversion rate. If, people are going through and it's converting at, let's say 3 or 4%, you're pretty happy, you're making a profit off of what you're spending to drive traffic there, that's great. But if it's lower than, or if it's high and you want it higher, it doesn't mean you can't still look through and see those open rates, click-through rates, and see if you can switch them a little bit more.
I love all of this. I'm just sitting here quietly because I'm absorbing everything. And I think that everyone that's listening is doing the same thing. I don't know if you guys understand, but this is pure gold. You're not going to find this by just like searching it in a Google search engine or going to someone's Facebook group. Mel is giving us some incredible advice. So be sure to go into your email responder and get to work right away. Cool. Get your first funnel started. It's really not that challenging. And once you start doing it, it's kind of exciting because you're able to take someone through like A to Z of that experience with you. You're able to confidently offer what you've been working so hard on. And it's amazing how many people create these incredible things and they don't know how to sell them. So this is a perfect way for you to get started. And just those 2 tips of knowing that if you're not getting a high open rate, it's the title, the subject. And if you're not getting a high click-through rate, it's the body. That changed so much for me. So write that down, staple it on your forehead, put it on your bathroom mirror, whatever you need to do. But I think that those are such fantastic, actionable tips. So thank you, my darling.
Yeah, no probs.
So give us a little taste for people that are just listening to you and are just starting to obsess over you now. What is coming up in your business that you're really excited about?
Yeah. So the big thing I'm most excited about is we are coming up on our 5th launch now of my 6-month group coaching program, which now we've actually lengthened to 7 months to give even more support. I'm really excited.
Amazing.
It's called Under Earner to Unforgettable. It is my coaching program for online entrepreneurs and coaches who are really looking to have those 5K months. So in April of 2017, we're opening the doors again, and we're actually launching it less often. We launched quite a bit last year, but it's not coming up as much. We're working toward the just once a year model right now. So awesome. That's what's really exciting coming up. That's in April. And yeah, we have some good free stuff though for anybody we're going to be diving in a little bit deeper to these funnel things, not as deep as we go in U2U, the group coaching program, but we're going to be talking in Funnel School all about these different pieces. So we're going to be talking about, again, how to tell if your funnel's working, what's the simplest setup you can do from the beginning. We're going to talk in more detail about how you can use your live content to create really awesome small passive income products that are just super over delivering, which builds so much trust with your audience. And just how you can use those within a funnel to, at the very least, just take the ad spend you're spending down, or if you're using organic social media, how to use them, or paid, to really turn these potential clients and these leads into paying customers as soon as possible, So we're going to be diving into stuff like that in Funnel School, which is, coming up in April as well. So I'm really excited.
So exciting. I was thinking for the people that maybe are coming onto this early before Funnel School starts, maybe we could make like a checklist of what you talked about today to get them into that sequence, because I was just thinking that's an incredible checklist. So maybe that's something we can put into our brains so that they can go right into Funnel School, because that is going to be absolutely incredible. So you can hopefully sign up for that below. And I am so excited. I saw her tease this on Periscope a couple days and was like, oh my God. And I love the title. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I think it's going to be so successful, because this is such a big pain point for so many newbie entrepreneurs. They hear about funnels everywhere and they're just not really sure what to do. So thank you for bringing clarity to that today. And people can go even deeper with you in Funnel School.
Indeed. Very cool.
So exciting. Well, darling, you have been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. I know your schedule is crazy, so thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and talk to all of our ladies. It's such a special treat to have you, and I am so excited for Funnel School and just wish you such a beautiful launch for you to U5.
Woohoo! I'm psyched too. Thank you so much for having me, and good luck everybody in designing your first funnel. It's really fun. That's why there's fun in the word.
Funnels. I never put that together before.
Funnels are
Genius. Funnels should be fun. Okay, everyone, we will see you in the next episode. In the meantime, I will have all the links for Mel below. Follow her on everything. Her Facebook Lives and Periscopes are must watches. So she's pretty much, it's like her and one other person that I have notifications on for. So set your notifications on, shout her out, tell her that you found her here on the podcast. I'm sure she would love to know. And you can find her group link below. And she has a group called the Feminine Affluent Entrepreneur. So we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Thanks for listening in today to the Visibility Vixen podcast. Subscribe now and share with a fellow Vixen who wants to start building their visibility. For more fire in your life and brand, visit visibilityvixen.com.